Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribhajakacharya Ashtotra Sadasri Śrīmad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur Ki प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि घोर भक्त वृंद की Grantara Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki, Samaveta Bhaktivedanta ki, Jai Gaur Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistikhi. Today we are continuing to read from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 10, entitled Maharaja Rahugana Meets Jada Bharata, text number 22. Stalagnitapat pashayo bitapas tattapatas-tandula garbarandihi dehendriya swashaya sannikarshat tatsamshriti purushasyanurodhat Stalagnitapat pashayo bitapas tattapatas-tandula garbarandihi dehendriya swasya sannikarshat tatsamsriti purushasyanurodhat Stalagnitapat pashayo bitapas tattapatas-tandula garbarandihi dehendriya swasaya sannikarshat tatsamsriti purushasyanurodhat. Please chant. Matajis. Word-to-word meaning. Stali, on the cooking pot. Agnitapat, because of the heat of fire. Payasaha, the milk put into the pot. Abhitapaha, becomes hot. Tattapataha, because of the milk's becoming hot. Tandula garbarandihi, the center of the rice within the milk becomes cooked. Deha indriya ashvashaya, the bodily senses. Sannikarshat, from having connections with. Tat samsritihi, the experience of fatigue and other miseries. Purushasya, of the soul. Anurodhat, from compliance due to being grossly attached to the body, senses and the mind. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. King Rahugana continued, "My dear sir, you have said that designations like bodily fatness and thinness are not characteristics of the soul. That is incorrect, because designations like pain and pleasure are certainly felt by the soul. You may put a pot of milk and rice within fire, and the milk and rice are automatically heated one after the other. Similarly, due to bodily pains and pleasures, the senses, mind and soul are affected. The soul cannot be completely detached from this conditioning." Purport. This argument put forward by Maharaja Rahugana is correct from the practical point of view, but it arises from an attachment to the bodily conception. It can be said that a person sitting in his car is certainly different from his car, but if there is damage to the car, the owner of the car, being overly attached to the car, feels pain. Actually, the damage done to the car has nothing to do with the car's proprietor. But because the proprietor has identified himself with the interest of the car, he feels pleasure and pain connected with it. This conditional state can be avoided if attachment is withdrawn from the car. Then the proprietor would not feel pleasure or pain if the car is damaged or whatever. Similarly, the soul has nothing to do with the body and the senses. But due to ignorance, he identifies himself with the body and he feels pleasure and pain due to bodily pleasure and pain. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here we see Maharaj Rahugana taking the subservient role of a disciple, stepping down from the role of a king, which is a material designation. And to discuss spiritual topics, one can't be sitting on a palanquin and listening to a guru who is standing on the floor. So as a proper etiquette, he steps down, falls in the ground, flat at the feet of Jada Bharat, who we know has very highly exalted divine qualities due to his attachment to the Lord, bhakti, the potency of bhakti Shakti. That Shakti overpowered the Shakti of the king who exercises his power or Shakti over the citizens. Now the king is stepped down and he is asking, the roles have changed from that of a king to a disciple, Jada Bharat from a palanquin carrier to that of a spiritual master. Even after having taken that step, King Rahugana does not completely switch off his intelligence and blindly accept things, which Jada Bharat said in the previous verses. Fat or thin, these are all material designations of a master and servant, these are all still material. Hearing this, Rahugana understands that, wait a second, I am not talking to an ordinary palanquin carrier. I must switch roles and now ask spiritual questions to an highly exalted person. Then he glorifies Jada Bharat, asks for his, where are you coming from, who are you? And now he's starting to make some logical counter-arguments to what Jada Bharat explained. Second observation that I made based on questions put by Rahugana is that he is frankly admitting his position. I am in bodily consciousness, your instructions seem to be at a very high platform, and I am using logic and I am putting forward this particular argument in front of you. So the point is frankly admitting one's position and not showing off himself to be a highly elevated person. Now, question to all of you, do you remember some other instance in the Bhagavatam or other stories where, in the epics, where a disciple frankly admits his position and asks for help? Yes, Mataji. Arjuna, very good. That's how Bhagavad Gita begins. Karpanya dosha. Yeah, what is that swabhava? At that time is, can you explain that verse that you quoted? Yes. So he's frankly admitting, I'm not able to decide what is correct, what is wrong, and then he surrenders. So frankly admitting one's position and taking shelter of Guru. Okay. Any other example? Srila Vyasadeva, very good. Can you expand on that? You have another mic, Prabhu. Not working. So okay, you can speak.
Srila Vyasadeva was not satisfied even after dividing the four Vedas and after compiling 18 Puranas.
Yeah. So Vyasadeva was not satisfied even after compiling the four Vedas. Yes.
And then he admitted his dissatisfaction with spiritual master Narada Muni.
So he admitted that to Narada Muni and then he got advice. Very good example. Any other example of disciples admitting frankly? Yes, Mother.
Narada Muni was also asking to his father who has created the universe. I was thinking that he has created all the universe, but then Brahma admits in the first canto that no, it's the Supreme Lord who has created everything. So
Okay.
then, Narada Muni submitted before Brahma, his father.
Very good. Yeah. Narada Muni submitting before Brahma and frankly asking questions. Something from the previous canto. Which canto we are in now? 5th. Previous to that is 4th. In 4th. Any other character?
Dhruva Maharaj also.
Yes, yes. Dhruva Maharaj.
Dhruva Maharaj also.
So, Vivek, you want to say something?
The sages of the Naimisharanya.
Oh, sages of Naimisharanya. Okay, yes, go ahead.
So they were inquiring from, I think, Sutta Goswami.
Yeah.
So they
What-
surrendered and they were asking questions.
That's good.
Yeah.
So anything from the 4th canto, Dhruva Maharaj frankly admits his inability to carry out the good words of Narad Muni. Narad Muni advised him, be satisfied with what comes on your own accord, you're just a child, don't take these words seriously. But Dhruva Maharaj said, my dear Lord, your words are true, but I am born of a particular nature, Kshatriya nature, I can't take this advice. So he's frankly admitting his position and he's putting forward inquiries. Can you suggest me something else? So here in this episode of Rahugana and Jada Bharat, Rahugana is admitting that I am materially entangled and this is how I think. I am my mind, I am my body, soul is inside me. So if the body is getting heated, if the mind is getting heated up, the soul also gets heated. And that's how Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur puts it. Because the heat of the milk, so we all understood the scenario. Pot is there, milk is there, inside milk there is rice and we are boiling the milk. So the fire reaches the utensil, then from there it transfers to the milk. Milk is boiling, so when the outer portion of the milk is boiling, then the rice grain, then the outer layer of the rice is getting heated and then the inside is also getting cooked. Similarly, how are we covered by, outermost covering is the gross body, then inside that is the subtle body, and when both are getting disturbed, heated, put in cold, put in wind, the soul also gets withered, soul also gets wet, soul also gets dry, soul also gets cooked. Is that a valid argument? So how will you say that it is not true? You're all Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav students. How will you refute this? I am inside a body, body is getting disturbed, bodily airs are getting disturbed, because of which mind is getting disturbed, soul is inside the gross and subtle body. Just like the rice gets cooked, soul will also get cooked. Yes.
Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, when he's defining the properties of the soul, the soul is completely transcendental. Heat, wind, nothing touches it. It is the association with the subtle body, that identification, that leads one to believe that I'm getting cooked when you're not.
Okay. So, the sequence which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains is that, yes, the body experiences it through the senses, then the life air gets disturbed, and that creates disturbance in the mind. And because the soul identifies himself with that particular experience, then based on that you feel pleasure or pain. So that is what is being explained in the purport as well. This is one example which is in the translation itself. What's the other example that's described in the purport? What does Prabhupada? The car example. Someone else would explain what the car example is about? Someone who has not spoken. What is the car example? Why is it used? And what is being brought out? Manmohan Prabhu wants to say something. He drives a lot of van. Okay, so Krishna describes yantra rudani maya. So the living entity is sitting as if in a vehicle. If somebody comes and scratches our car or hits or some unfortunate event happens to the car and we are sitting inside the car, we also feel, if it's a newly brought car, we will feel it's as if it is scratched us. We will feel that. And as and when the car it's got many dents and scratches and okay, among the 10 this is the 11th. So I was even seeing a YouTube video which promotes spray which takes off the scratches. So that person who promotes it, he was saying, nowadays, off late, I've seen a lot of scratches. Now, this one spray, you spray it and then you wipe it. So, he is so attached to the car that he can't tolerate the scratch in the car, and he's paying money to go and get a spray, and then he's nicely polishing it as if it is his own self. So, this is due to misidentification, due to ignorance, and you feel that when the scratches are gone in the car and you are satisfied. Well, unless you feed your stomach, you will not be satisfied. Just by wiping off the scratches, you will not feel satisfied. You can't drink petrol and diesel and engine oil and live. That is for the car. And your body requires food, nourishment, that's a different source. The soul also requires a different kind of nourishment. So after we've covered the two analogies, the other key points that are coming up is the conditional state. We will dwell on what this conditioning is into little detail and how it can be avoided. The solution is also given. So watch this line carefully. This conditional state can be avoided if attachment is withdrawn from the car. Then the proprietor would not feel pleasure or pain if the car is damaged or whatever. So, conditioned state, that is a problem which we will analyze, how much we are conditioned. And one of the solution is taking the attachment away and putting it on something else. So, before we move into the details of conditioning, another mundane example of when a person is oblivious to bodily pain, because he is attached to something else. Now, you all would be familiar, you yourself would have played some sports, or you would have seen someone else playing sports. So, when you are playing the sport, you are so absorbed that the minor scratches, cuts and wounds, you won't be aware of it, conscious of it, because you are attached to playing the game, winning, and that takes you out of the bodily platform, and you're so attached in the results, you want to win. So later when you come home and check there are bruises, cuts and this and that, then you'll start doing the first aid. But during the game, in the field, you're totally oblivious to all of that. So this is how we understand when we focus on something higher, then we can transcend the bodily and mental pleasure and pain. Matra sparsha astu kaunteya sita ushna. Become transcendental to all this. And why Krishna is saying that in the beginning, when we reach the middle 6 chapters, when especially in the 12th chapter, that is one of the qualities that will make you dear to Krishna. So from the beginning itself, the kind-hearted Lord is injecting qualities which will make you, when you read the middle 6 chapters, dear to Him. For that understanding, we need to come out of the conditioning. So before dwelling on the topic of conditioning, I am so much conditioned, I need the blessings and the prayers of the devotees so that I can come out of this conditioning. So, sections which I am going to read are from book of His Holiness Śrīmad Swami, Vedanta Psychology, where Maharaj has taken from various sections of Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's more like a collection of references put together in the form of essays, and one of the essay topic is how much we are conditioned. I'm reading few sections of it. So to understand how much we are conditioned, how much layers we are covered under. So once we know how much we are covered under, then we can come out of it. The conditioned soul is covered by 7 kinds of gross bodily layers. 7, okay? Skin, flesh, bone, muscles, marrow, fat and semen. So this is from Krishna book, chapter 2. So the gross body we're talking about, it's defined in simple terms in 7th chapter of the Gita: earth, water, fire, air, ether. And these skin, flesh, bone, muscles, marrow, fat and semen are the combination of those 5 elements, and this is how the soul is covered grossly. Now, moving on to the subtle conceptions that are imposed by the mind. So mind is a subtle covering, and you have subtle conceptions based on the mind, where the consciousness goes through the mind. So let's try to understand this. So there is a source of light and there is a prism. Then the light passes through the prism and then comes out in various colors, in various angles. Those who have done physics experiments who are experts will know. What is it? Reflection, refraction, all that. Now, consciousness is there, it passes through mind, and depending on where it is pointing to and where it is taking you to, you have different kinds of conceptions which are imposed upon you. The conception that life is food. Life is food. Wherever I am looking for, I look for food. We have spiritualized it and we have given a spiritual name, food for life. But if the living entity is focused only on food, where is my next food? Annamaya. The conception that life is food, that is called a subtle conception, which is Annamaya. Then once you get food, you have energy. What do you want to do? You want to move. So many people going for jogging, swimming and all those activities. So pranamaya, the conception that life is bodily movement, let's move. Just do it. All that concept where action. Thinking that by moving I'm making progress. One should not confuse movements to progress. So pranamaya is that conception where it's all based on bodily movement. After that, next stage is the conception that I am my mind, and whatever is the focus of my mind is based on accepting, rejecting, like, dislike. And you go through this over a period, you get frustrated and then you discriminate. Is this actually correct? What I'm experiencing, pleasure and pain, repeatedly. So you tend to discriminate, then you come to a better culture which is Vijnanamaya. From mental platform you rise to intelligence where you start to discriminate. Then finally, when you come to the point of understanding that spiritual realization will actually lead me to happiness. So that is the final conception, which is the exit door to get out of all these coverings. Understanding that the bliss in life is coming from self-realization. So we saw the gross layer and then we saw the subtle conceptions. Now the combination of these elements with the senses and the sense objects that will give rise to further, as Krishna describes, Ichcha Dvesha. Ichcha means desire, Dvesha is hatred. And then happiness and distress. This is the field of activity, what we discussed, and the subtle conceptions. And then once you deal with it, what you get, the result, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, as you start interacting. Now this journey is again not very pleasurable. We saw 7 coverings, now we are going to number 6. Number 6 talks about 6 kind of material whips. You know what's a whip is? You get whipped, a horse or an animal gets whipped. So every living entity gets whipped by 6 whips. Any guess on that? Thirst, hunger, sleep is not listed, but it's a good guess. Thirst, hunger, lamentation, illusion, old age and death. So from 7 layers we are moving to 6 whips. This is to understand how much the field, how much we are conditioned. Then here you perform 4 activities, which every ISKCON preacher will say. Eating, sleeping, mating and defending. And through this you engage in 4 types of sinful activities, which is So 4 kind of vices, which you take a vow when you get initiated, those 4. And by committing these, you enter into 3 kinds of hell, which is through gates of hell, which is lust, anger and greed. Again you come into the clutches of 6 kinds of enemy: lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness and jealousy. And on top of that, these 4-fold miseries are there: birth, death, old age and disease. Anyone not getting depressed yet? So this is the extent of the conditioning that we are put into and the field that we are in, this is the amount of pleasure and pain, the desire and hatred, and then the transformation of consciousness from one level to the other level to the other level. And then we forgot about something else, the three modes. See in the picture? Goodness, passion, ignorance. So then all of them, they bind us, that they are called as guna. Another meaning of guna is rope. It binds us. Goodness binds by knowledge and happiness. Passion binds by excessive desires and plan making. Illusion binds by excessive sleep and indolence. Again you are bound. And then the head of all this is our Maya Devi. Dhaivi Yesha Gunamayi. Gunamayi. She is made of Gunamayi. My Maya. So she has two potencies, covering and throwing. Avaranatmika and Prakshepatmika. She makes you forget that you are the spirit soul, forgetfulness of one's spiritual identity. And then after that you are covered by the modes. Swarupa Avarika, ignorance that covers your spiritual form. All that we discuss, bone, flesh, marrow, all that is like, I am wearing jacket, so if I wear one more. So that densely we are packed, and this is how Maya Devi covers, and then on top of that there are modes. And all the transformations that we went through, birth, death, old age, disease, the 6 whips. So this is the extent of that one word, conditioning. This is how Maharaj goes into details of all this. Now we discussed the solution. Anyone remembers what is the solution to come out of the conditioned state? Detach and attach to something superior. Made you depressed. Now, from solution point of view, how do we come out of the conditioning? How does 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita begin? Can someone get the Gita? 7th. Maya ashakta mana partha. So the word that I am looking for. So the solution we saw is conditioning can be overcome by attachment, if the attachment is withdrawn. So what is the word attachment in 7.1? Asakta. So as I was hearing Yamuna Leela Mataji giving Bhagavad Gita class, so she mentioned a point which struck me, about how in these chapters there is conversation between the Guru and disciple. So Guru speaks, disciple speaks, but in 7th chapter only Guru is speaking. Here in this case Arjuna, the disciple keeps quiet. The entire 7th chapter Krishna doesn't give an opportunity for him to open his mouth, because Krishna is speaking on a topic which is very dear to his heart, which is what? Bhakti. That's the middle 6 chapters. So Krishna opens his mouth, never gives Arjuna any chance to open his mouth. He just speaks and speaks. And the first thing he says, just here I'll speak. Mind attached, asakta mana, mai, unto me. Yogam yunjan mad ashraya. In that consciousness of me, without doubt, completely, you can know me. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, not partial, not 10%, in full consciousness of me, how? That one of the coverings that we talked about, which is going to Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Annamaya, focus that mind, that consciousness on me. That's what Krishna is saying. With mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So when the mind is attached to Krishna, that is the first step in coming out of the pleasure and pain of the body. And in this chapter, Krishna is saying that he is giving knowledge which is both phenomenal and numinous. Phenomenal, what does that mean? Any guess? Sorry? Something really wonderful, great, yes? Phenomenal. Something that you can use your senses and get the inputs, phenomenal. And then second thing he uses is numinous. I remember preparing a short glossary of words. Yes. That is numinous. So phenomenal is?
Phenomenal is the true meanings that we get.
Sorry?
Phenomenal is the meaning that Prabhu gave and that we get. It was true.
Okay. Phenomenal is that you can observe through your senses. And in 7th chapter, Krishna is giving, even if you are in the bodily consciousness, in materially engrossed, even within matter, what is attracting you, that potency is me. Punya Gandha. Yeah. So you have a list. Why is this list being given? So that the conditioning that we saw, whichever state that you are in, if I am so attached to earth, okay, the smell of the earth is Krishna. If I am so attached to water, when I drink water, I should remember Krishna. Rasoham apsu kaunteya. Prabhupada even says that a drunkard, even if he thinks that the taste of the wine is Krishna, then he will get purified. Here is how we see the merciful aspect of the Lord. To whatever extent you are conditioning, I am willing to get down to that level and help you. You are covered by those 5 elements. The potency of that 5 elements, that is me. The conditioning that you are stuck in, that potency that you are looking for, happiness in all those, that's me. The heat in the fire. Now we are moving from summer, transitioning to autumn, so all the fans will gradually go down. Now the heaters will come out of the... So when you are turning on, experiencing all that, you see that, okay, now I need heat. That potency is given by Krishna, so which means I need Krishna. I am thirsty, I am looking for water, which means I need Krishna. When I drink, it is quenching my thirst. Thank you. Prabhupada explains, that's how the personalist sees the merciful hand of the Lord. The impersonalist sees the energy of the Lord. Now, we are in the bodily consciousness. By putting together these potencies and giving those material elements for you to play with, just like children are playing with mat and whatnot, their crayons, after a time they'll, okay, I've had enough, I'll come back to my mother. So now we are asked to, okay, go ahead, play with the earthly element, all combinations, and then you you experience that 6 whips, transformations, all that, then you will come to the Father. So that is the phenomenal knowledge which helps us to connect to the Lord even when we are in the conditioned state. So that is the purpose of giving that list. I encourage devotees to memorize the list. There is nothing wrong in memory and recall. Along with that, make the connection. Why is this being given? I think there are 15 things listed, no? Bhakti Shastri students, it's one of the questions. List the energies of Krishna in the 7th chapter. And we'll all be going. Heat in the fire, taste of water is good. Then make the connection, then apply it in your life. So when I'm drinking water, am I thinking about Krishna? If not, why not? And then start. So then Gyan becomes Vigyan, so you're putting it into practice. Now, second, phenomenal, numinous. Numinous actually gave me more inputs about why Krishna is revealing this numinous knowledge. When I found the meaning of the word numinous, it says something divine, as Nitai Preman Prabhu said, having a strong religious or spiritual quality. So, 7th chapter he is saying, I am giving you both phenomenal and numinous knowledge. Phenomenal knowledge about the world and then the numinous. So, while we are in the phenomenal topic, the purports in 7th chapter talk about the 3 Vishnus. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu and Mahavishnu. Sorry, the sequence is Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. One may wonder why we have to read about them. Bhagavatam later on explains that one who understands this creation process, it will be easy for them to come out and get liberated. And it is, as a matter of etiquette, before jumping into the Rasa Leela pastimes of the Lord, the conditioned living being has to understand, as I said, conditioned living being, how much you are conditioned, what state are you in, and in this material world, who should you surrender to? Purify your conditioning, as Bhagavatam 1.2 chapter goes through the purificatory process, all begins by hearing. Once you go through that, then these 3 Vishnus, they help you. One is the soul of the entire universe, all universes come from him, Mahavishnu. Then one of the Vishnu enters into each universe, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and then Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. And each one of them is responsible for the different states of being that we are in, for the mind and the intelligence. As Lord Shiva, in his prayers, he talks about how each of the expansion of the Lord is responsible for each of the functions of the body, mind, intelligence. So, just to give a quick summary of that, this is from 4th canto. The Chitta, the consciousness, is governed by none other than Vasudeva. Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, the 4th Chaturvyuha. Why are we reading about them? What is the significance? What is the connection? They are not only somewhere up in the spiritual world, their effect, their influence, their mercy is acting on you on a daily basis. So the purpose of that Rudra Gita prayer is to see that connection. Bhuta Sukshmendriyatmane, which means the Chitta is controlled by Vasudev, and the purpose of the prayer, please make my Chitta peaceful, Shantaya, and unchanging, and make that consciousness attached to you. And when consciousness is attached to the Lord, that is the solution for the conditioning, which we described in detail before. So, chitta has to be peaceful consciousness. Then, and it is controlled by Vasudeva, so that mapping is clear. Then, false ego. Sankarshana, the master of integration and disintegration. So, Lord Shiva is praying, bind my possessiveness. So, false ego binds you, my possessiveness, bind that to you, my Lord, and reinstate my actual identity as your devotee. That's how Lord Shiva prays. So, I need some Krishna. So, in that prayer to Lord Sankarshana, Shiva prays, bind my possessiveness to the Lord, which is you, and my ego to my true identity as a devotee. So, chitta is taken care, ahankar is taken care. Now, the third is intelligence, buddhi. And Pradyumna is responsible for intelligence and for universal growth. So, if he is responsible for universal growth, anyone not aspiring for personal growth, everybody is aspiring for it. So then we must take shelter of whom? Pradyumna. Enlightener of the universe, Vishwa Prabodhaye. So Lord Shiva is praying, wake up my intelligence so that I will situate myself in bhakti. Then the most powerful of all this, the mind, the controller of that is Aniruddha, the supreme director of the mind, Indriya, which is the chief of the senses, Rishikesha. So, to Aniruddha, Lord Shiva is praying, attract my mind to your feet through bhakti and keep it in a perfect state of cleanliness. With mind attached to me, you can know me in full. We saw that in the Gita. And that is governed, mind is governed by none other than Lord Aniruddha. So this is one way of coming out of the conditioning by seeing the connection to the Chaturvyuha, understanding and knowledge of this Purusha avatars will liberate you, and absence of knowledge will keep you bound. Now we saw about the phenomenal. Then the numinous. The word numinous talks about arousing spiritual or religious emotions. Numinous knowledge arouses spiritual or religious emotions inside you. It is mysterious and it's awe-inspiring. It is arousing spiritual emotions. That's what the word numinous means. So why do we have to develop spiritual emotions? Because emotions are what sets you in action. We saw mind, it has got 3 ways of functioning: thinking, feeling and willing. Of the 3 feelings, emotions, that is got the most power among these 3. Now within the Gita, Krishna also gives information about the spiritual world. Yad gatva na nivartante. That place having gone, you will never come back. That place is not illuminated by sun or moon, it is self-illuminated. The liberated souls are always there, and the plea of Krishna in the form of the song of love, which is the Gita, is to take us from this conditioned state to that place. Having gone, you never come back. By that, Krishna is arousing the spiritual emotions inside you, and then he is putting a hook for you to read further Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, where the descriptions of Vaikuntha are given in the first 2 cantos, and throughout the whole Bhagavatam, the descriptions of Vaikuntha are given. Why? To arouse that spiritual emotion inside you, that numinous knowledge is there. Why? To arouse that emotion, and emotion will put you in action. And that action, for you to perform, you need to have senses, mind, buddhi, consciousness, all that in a purified state. And when you do that, you come out of conditioning, which we saw earlier, and your attachment to the Lord, that one particular line in the purport. This conditioned state can be avoided if attachment is withdrawn. So we are withdrawing from matter and putting it on the pastimes of the Lord, beauty of the Lord, the abode of the Lord, His service. So this is why the numinous knowledge is given, so that your mind is attracted, your feelings are aroused, and you are set into proper action. Now Srila Prabhupada has masterminded this and has put everything into the morning program and our sadhana, because this whole sadhana is a purificatory process of all these coverings that we discussed, which will purification is done through cultivation, as the definition of the bhakti has to be cultivated. What is the Sanskrit word for cultivation? So when bhakti is discussed, that normally the word cultivation is used. It's like a field, you sow the seed, you plant, and then you water, all that. So there are different levels of cultivation, which Sivaram Swami describes in his book. At the level of spiritual cultivation means you are given education about bhakti in terms of who you are, what is the process, and what is the goal. So education through Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana is a form of spiritual cultivation. Cultivation is vyavas. Okay, let's not go into that. So let's come back. So spiritual cultivation. So then there is mental cultivation, which is done by understanding the qualities of a human being, out of which predominantly there is about physical cleanliness, purity, and then there is a spiritual side as well. So we need to be aware of it and cultivate, which is integrated by Srila Prabhupada by making us chant the holy name and avoid those 4 vices. Bodily cultivation, which includes service to others, then engaging in devotional service through japa, through kirtan, engaging the body in going to pilgrimage. Then there is cultivation of speech, which includes prayers, preaching. My devotees derive pleasure by conversing with each other, one another. Tushyanti cha, ramanti cha. Cultivation of relationship with devotees and ultimately with the Lord. So cultivating relationship among devotees. So that's why we have Nectar of Instruction, 6 kinds of loving relationships. Then, in terms of being situated in the society in a stable varna and ashrama, by observing your own inclinations, which you're inclined towards, and be situated in that, and play that specific social and spiritual role perfectly. This is a type of cultivation which will help you come out of conditioning and also get attached. So when we are discussing these points, we need to understand in what context. So this is helping you to come out of conditioning and also get attached to the Lord. And finally, cultivation of sense objects, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, sense of touch. If you see the morning program, all this is getting covered. You see the arati, all the 5 Panchabhutas are getting offered to the Lord, getting purified, coming to us. Then we sit and do japa. We purify ourselves. Then we have friendly relationship with the devotees. Then we are properly situated, so you get initiated. Spiritual stability is situated in Varnashram, proper stability there. All this is like a series of purification that will help you get out of the conditioning and attach yourself to the lotus feet of the Lord. I'll conclude with prayer of Mother Lakshmi towards Lord Rishikesha, where she is addressing him with all these different levels of consciousness, that you are the master of all the senses, and you are the reservoir of all good qualities. And Prabhupada, in the purport to that, actually promotes this prayer, saying that this prayer composed by Mother Lakshmi has got immense spiritual potency. It is 5:18:18. In purport to this 5:18:18, this verse, offering respectful obeisances unto the Lord, was composed by Rama, the goddess of fortune, and is full of spiritual power. Under the guidance of a spiritual master, everyone should chant this mantra and thus become a complete and perfect devotee of the Lord. One should chant this mantra. One may chant this mantra for complete liberation from material bondage, and after liberation one may continue to chant it while worshipping the Supreme Lord in Vaikuntha. So I'll read the translation of this and also some portions of the word-to-word meaning. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishikesha, the controller of my senses and the origin of everything. As the Supreme Master of all bodily, mental and intellectual activities, He is the only enjoyer of their results. The 5 sense objects and 11 senses, including the mind, are His partial manifestations. All the Chaturvyuha, all that is covered, we saw. And then the different levels of consciousness. He supplies all necessities of life, which are His energy, and thus non-different from Him. And He is the cause of everyone's bodily and mental prowess, which is also non-different from Him. Indeed, He is the husband and provider of necessities for all living entities. The purpose of all the Vedas is to worship Him. Therefore, let us all offer Him our respectful obeisances. May He always be favorable towards us in this life and the next. So, we will recite this prayer. We can all repeat. Om Haram Hrim Hrum Om Namo Bhagavate ऋषिकेशाय सर्वगुण विशेषैर विलक्षित आत्मने आकुतीनां चित्तानां चेतसां विशेषाणां चाधिपतये षोडशकलाय छन्दोमयाय अन्नमयाय अमृतमयाय सर्वमयाय सहसे ओजसे बलाय कांताय कामाय नमस्ते उभयत्र भूयात्. Okay, thank you. We'll conclude here. Granthara Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.